I'm a big fan of psychedelics. I'm a big fan of psilocybin. It's been very therapeutic for me throughout especially in the last 4 or 5 years, in really getting to the seeds of my functioning mechanism and who I am as a being on this planet in this lifetime. So this summer, I had just gotten a new batch of mushrooms. I hadn't tried them yet. For anyone who's not familiar or familiar with mushrooms, there's all different kinds of strains, just like cannabis. And there's big ones, and there's little ones, and there's all shapes and sizes. There's ones that look like your finger. There's ones that are like perfect little mushrooms. I usually there are these ones that I'd gotten for a while that were called albinos, white albinos, and they're these really nice looking, beautiful little mushrooms. And they've always been very effective for me. Now in this batch, these were some monsters. These were some big dogs. The smallest ones looked like my pinky or my thumb.
Yeah, it looked like me standing next to you.
Yeah, exactly. In my experience, the bigger the mushroom, the less potent they are. I don't know why that is, and maybe I could be wrong in that, but that is just that's been the experience that I've had. So I got this batch, and I say that because I like to pop like a cap and a stem, or a couple stems and a couple caps. I like to really titrate my dose of mushrooms. If I'm not going to do a big trip, I'd like to just take a little bit at a time, and that just opens me up and puts me in the flow and gets me where I need to go. But so I had this new batch. And another thing I'll throw in here, because it's important for why it ended up being an accidental big trip. Every morning I intermittent fast. About five mornings a week. I don't eat breakfast. On this particular day, it was during the week, I felt like I wanted to eat some breakfast, so I had a solid breakfast, had like a scramble with bacon and some like a good keto breakfast. So, and I wasn't going to take any mushrooms that day. That was my initial plan. But as the day wore on, now it's about 11 o'clock. I've got a podcast to do at 1. I have to run an errand before the podcast starts. So I go, you know what? I'm going to try these mushrooms. So I take one out, a decent sized one. It didn't appear to me to be too big or too potent. Ate it, ran the errand, came home, was feeling good, but not really feeling anything. I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to eat one more. I'm going to get a workout in. And by the time I'm done with my workout, I'm going to be ready for my podcast, and I'll be ready to roll. And so I eat another mushroom, about the same size, maybe a little bigger. I go and I get my workout in. Finishing up my workout, and I'm starting to feel the mushrooms are really starting to take hold. And I start preparing for this podcast. And as I'm preparing and gathering all of my gear to do this podcast, I realize that I am just in a complete descent into myself. And the mushrooms are really starting to take on.
So you feel like you're almost falling into yourself?
Yes. I'm literally descending down into the deeper dimensions of myself. And I'm looking around my house, and I'm seeing how much stuff there is to do, and the mail that I haven't opened, and then thinking about the emails that I meant to send that I didn't get to send. And it's like I'm just like falling down into myself. And I'm just looking at all this stuff that I'm missing. And I just keep falling, and I keep falling, and I sit down at the table to do this podcast, and I realize there's just no way I'm going to be able to sit there and do this podcast. And I walk over, grab my yoga mat, put it down in the middle of my living room, and I open it up, and I just sprawl out on the floor, and this thing just starts to completely take me over. And I close my eyes, and I'm feeling the medicine just moving all through my body, all through my mind. I'm feeling really uncomfortable. I open my eyes up, and my ceiling is this kaleidoscopic, fractalized universe. And I go, oh my God, Here I am. Here I am, Eb. We're in a real trip now, man. I close my eyes, and I just work on relaxing my body. And as I'm trying to do that, these two entities come into me. One of them is this masculine force, which is like this abstract cobra that's dive bombing me and analyzing me and fucking all over me.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really uncomfortable and doing my best to get out of the way of it, but it's just there, and it's checking me out, man, and it's fucking, it's grilling me. And then this feminine essence comes in, which I couldn't see, but I could feel, and it just starts moving its way through my whole being. And it starts finding all this shit that I'm holding on to and that I'm hiding from myself.
Like insecurities, things like that?
Insecurities, shame. It's like, Eb, oh yeah, Eb, you know, this little piece of darkness over here, we're gonna shine some light on that. You know, how you feel, you know, your sexuality and your feelings about who you are and what you are, and you know, this deep lust that you have, and all of these things, we're going to bring them up, man, and we're going to show you who you are right now.
Yeah. Fucking like a whirlwind, I guess looking back on it now, it's beautiful, but at the time you don't realize that you're in the middle of something that could be beautiful if you get through it. So it's like a hell. It's like a hell in its own way while it's happening.
You know, I've done a lot of this stuff now, and it was one of those things where, so I'm in that, and I'm feeling all of that. I'm being dive bombed, and the feminine energy is going into all my dark places and pulling shit out and showing it to me. And I'm thinking to myself, good God, I want to be anywhere but right here. I just want to run. I want to get up. I want to take a walk outside, but I literally couldn't move. I couldn't go anywhere.
Yeah.
And I'm so uncomfortable, and I'm feeling how uncomfortable I am. And then all of a sudden, this voice comes into my head, and it says, there's nowhere to go until you surrender to where you're at. And I just took a deep breath, and I just let everything go and completely relaxed into the whole thing. And it transformed from this really uncomfortable feeling trip into this fucking magical ride of being in the magnificence of myself, dancing with these cobras, riding the waves of this golden palace that was my soul. And it was super, it was a very necessary experience. I think I probably ended up having 4 grams of mushrooms.
Yeah,
in that trip.
It's a good amount. A heroic dose that would qualify.
Yeah, just about. And it was, there was so much in it. There was let go of all the bullshit. There's so much unnecessary things we trouble ourselves with. Letting go of all of that. There was, you know, at the end of the day, nothing really matters but loving each other and supporting each other and finding joy in your life. And it was a big lesson in that. And then that voice, that was really the thing, you know, there's nowhere to go until you surrender to where you're at. And that's, to me, that's so profound in my life. That is always, that's a message that pervades throughout, because myself, I know I am heading, I'm taking a wrong turn on the path anytime I'm looking too far into the future, or I'm getting distracted by this thing over here and I want to go do that, and I'm not paying attention to where I am, where my feet are right in this moment. And it was a super profound experience, man. And that's, you know, that's the essence of these medicines, is they really bring you back to the source of yourself and to the source of all things. You know, we get so distracted and spun out into all different kinds of areas because we feel like we're not as successful as we're supposed to be, or we're not exactly where we're supposed to be, or we need to be doing something else, or we need to be somewhere else. And it's like, man, until we fucking surrender right here to where we're at, and we can relate to the world from this point, there's no going anywhere else.